And if you're already here, we're just pausing to let everyone enter the Zoom room. If you're already watching us, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Hi, everybody.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Julia with Politics and Prose. We're live with writer and cookbook author Dawn Perry and the Washington Post food section's Olga Massov there. Alongside us tonight is Associate Director of Education and Training at the Washington Literary Center, Terrell Danley. We're here discussing Perry's Ready, Set, Cook. You can follow the link we put in the chat to get the book directly from us at Politics and Prose. Within this hour, you'll witness a live cooking demo. So if you have questions during that or for the author, go ahead and put those in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll be answering some of those throughout, and we'll move to them more towards the end of discussion as well. Additionally, we're going to enable closed captioning for this webinar via Zoom's auto captioning services. If you'd like to enable captions, you can click the CC live transcript icon at the bottom of the screen. Before we begin, we do want to thank all of you out there for joining us. We're eternally grateful to our loyal family of customers who keep our business and our spirits afloat. And we'd also like to thank the Washington Literary Center for partnering with us on this event. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it off to Terrell Danley to start us off. Thank you, Terrell.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And to our friends and our partners at Politics and Prose, and to everyone who decided to support us this evening, we just want you to know how valuable your support is. Thank you for joining us. It's because of you and your spirit of giving that your neighbors here in Washington, D.C., the 36% who are functionally illiterate, will now have access to reading, literacy, numeracy, digital literacy, throughout the city. So we just thank you for your support, and please get ready and get set for this wonderful evening. And before I even let go, I just want to say, Dawn, thank you for sending us that wonderful recipe, that amuse-bouche to get us started with the spaghetti pancakes. I'm so looking forward to making that, and I know that's not what you're featuring tonight, but if you are, I can't wait to. Oh, it is? Okay, great. I can't wait to try it. And thank you so much for your support. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Terrell, and thank you, Julia, and thank you, Olga, for cooking along with me. Thanks, everybody, for being here. So, yeah, tonight, Olga and I and Avi wave. We're going to be cooking together. We're going to make these spaghetti pancakes. If you have the book, it's on page 260. That's what they look like. And it's from a section of the book, there's the front, called Afterthoughts, which is really just, I was motivated to get folks to make over their leftovers. As an eater, like, I don't love leftovers. I think just because, like, as a cook, and when you're trying out recipes, it's like you see the same thing over and over and over again. So you don't just want to stick it in the microwave and reheat it and eat it as it was. So this section is all about how to reinvent your leftovers so they never feel boring, so that they can feel new. And you can trick your kids into eating the same thing twice. So we'll see if it works. So I'm just going to kind of get started cooking. I have, the point I make for this recipe is you can kind of use any cooked carb and it'll work. So in the book, I lead with spaghetti. I actually have like a mess of fusilli, so I'm going to use that tonight. This is just like buttered pasta that I made for my kids last night. But you can use spaghetti, you can use any shaped pasta, that'll work. You could use rice that's been cooked and left over. You could use other grains like quinoa or farro, like brown rice, obviously. I've also made it with mashed potatoes, or even like boiled potatoes or roasted potatoes. You can kind of mash up in the same way. So I'm going to be using fusilli. Olga, what are you guys going to be using?
We're going to be using spaghetti. We've got some spaghetti that
Great.
I can tell you that they were left over, but I'm just going to be really honest to tell you I pre-cooked them just so I had them.
Perfect. And like, you know, I was telling Julia and Terrell when we started this thing, I was like, the recipe only takes 15 minutes. So as we cook, guys, shout out any questions, drop them in the Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer them. In the recipe, I do say to like beat the egg first. I've already screwed up, so hopefully I can demonstrate how forgiving this recipe is. So I put the pasta in a bowl. I'm not measuring. Olga, I don't think, is measuring either. We're just gonna eyeball it.
Looks like about.
Yeah, I've got about 2 cups. What about you?
I think 3 cups for me, but I don't.
Okay, cool. So yeah. The only like game is to kind of eyeball how many cups you have, and then you want to use 1 whole egg per cup of like stuff. I know that this container is 4 cups, and I'm going to use half of it because I can recycle that other half in another way. So eggs go in. I'm going to do 2. And then I'm going to add some cheese. It's a dire situation for a professional cook. We were out of many things, including Parmesan, which I really like in this preparation, but I do have the end of a 2-pound block of cheddar. So that's what I'm going to be using. Olga, what cheese do you all have?
I actually have Parmesan. Because I had to test the recipe that used quite a bit of it. I bought a thing rated for you, So I'm just eyeball.
So yeah, eyeball it. One thing, I think Olga and I have both learned over the years is sort of how to eyeball stuff, but also, things that are only good for maybe playing Trivial Pursuit or, like schmoozing at parties. Like I know that 4 ounces of shredded cheese is about a cup. Most people don't need to know that, but like I know that this is 8 ounces. So I'm going to probably use, so let's see. I need a half a cup. So I need like a quarter of this situation. I've got a little bit here. So I'm just going to cut it off to keep myself honest, because I will add more cheese than it's called for.
But also, I don't think it's kill anybody to add a little more cheese.
No. Olga, what are your feelings on pre-shredded cheese? I ask because like I used to be a real stickler about like, oh, you should, buy your cheese like in as close to whole as you can. But with the frequency that I am making grilled cheese and quesadillas, I have embraced the pre-shredded cheese. What about you all?
It's funny you say that because I used to be in the in the same camp, but I've been cooking so much and using so many recipes that involve pre-shredded cheese that I've kind of said it's fine. It's okay. Yeah. I think also becoming a parent makes you a lot less particular about certain things. You embrace you embrace appliances you may not have embraced in your pre-parental ways. So
totally.
Yeah, so I'm for shredded cheese because otherwise my 20-minute, a 30-minute recipe.
Yeah, and I am all for it. See, it's really, I would say becoming a parent is by far the thing that kind of like shifted my perspective on what is truthfully a 30-minute meal. I spent many years making claims about what could be done by working parents at the end of the day. And then I became one and realized that I was totally off base. So I think whatever shortcuts that work for you to make it easier, to make mealtime less stressful, especially when you have little kids, busy kids, do that. I mean, my whole hope is just to like get people in the kitchen, make it feel easy, build your confidence. So you're excited to cook more. And then you start to seek out ingredients that you love. And I think by using what you already have on hand, it just like takes one level of stress out of it. Like you don't have to go to the store with the shopping list. You don't have to, spend extra time sourcing ingredients. I mean, what's great these days is so much is available on the internet, or with delivery options, you can get so much. But I tried to make, I know that the word access is complicated, but I did try to make the ingredients as accessible as possible. I've lived in small towns and big cities across the country, and in different pockets of different cities. And I can say quite confidently that you can get all of these sort of basic pantry ingredients that I suggest carrying at any well-stocked supermarket.
Yep. No, I think parenthood humbles you.
100%. I'm seasoning this with just like a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And so now I have this like not super sexy looking bowl of like eggy pasta. I'll show you.
Yes, you are helping. So, okay, I'm gonna do a shot of mine. Does that sound?
Yeah, show us.
So this is what I've got. This very saucy situation.
Nice. Saucy situation. Nice.
Maybe there was a little more egg than maybe it was 2.5 cups, but I think it's gonna be okay.
I actually added another egg because I was like, I was feeling shy. So I feel like I just wanted to cover my bases. And so I'm going to heat up my oil. I have just some vegetable oil. It's nothing fancy. I know that some people.
Is that okay?
What's that?
I'm going with olive oil. Is that okay?
I think that's fine. I know that some people don't like to fry in olive oil, but I think as long as you don't like turn it on high and go like do a load of laundry or take a shower, you're going to be fine. Though I have been known to forget that the stove was on, so keep an eye on me.
I was not going to shower during this particular time.
So I'm heating it over medium high. I find, and I'd say I have about like a 1/4 inch of oil across the bottom. I'm in a 10-inch cast iron. I like it because it gets hot and it stays hot. You can definitely fry these in less oil, but if you're gonna do it, I think go for it. I don't fry a ton at home. I definitely don't deep fry at home just because I'm like pretty stingy and I don't like to use that much oil in one sitting. It's more about that than it is about like a fear of deep frying, but I will sort of shallow fry quite a bit, whether it's like chicken cutlets or, anything breaded. I brown tofu a lot in a decent amount of oil. Olga, what are your thoughts on frying at home?
I fry a fair amount.
Yeah.
Partly because that, my job requires the recipe testing and development. I've kind of given up on the fact that like there's splatters everywhere and I have to clean grease. Like I have to master clean my kitchen every single night. But that's just it. I don't know. I'm like, it doesn't bother me. It's just, you do it when you have to. And if it's tasty and it's fun, then.
Yeah.
So I think we have a couple of questions. Do you want me to ask you now?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I'm going to lower my heat a little so I don't like burn my oil.
Yeah, so I have actually, I heated over medium high. I know that sort of by having shallow fried in this setup a number of times that I like to sort of bring it up to temp over medium high and then I turn it down to medium. What I like about cooking in cast iron is it gets hot and it stays hot. So I know that kind of like once I get to temp, like we're just going to cruise. So I am going to go ahead and turn it down to medium so I don't make too big of a mess.
All right. So the first question is, any recommendations for holiday cooking given the supply chain issues we've been hearing about? What common ingredient substitutions should we keep in mind?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. Well, my hope is that, and I think the supply chain issue is is akin to like the moment when I sort of had the initial inspiration for the book. Was I used to live in New York. I'm in California now, but I went to the grocery store before a snowstorm. It was going to be bad. And I was just there sort of for work, like getting whatever groceries I needed for my next assignment. And every cart was like overflowing with, you know, everything from like milk, bread, cereal, sort of like your super staples, to like beautiful cheeses and all the other things. And my feeling was like, surely you have some food in the house. Like in this neighborhood, I was sure that these folks had a well-stocked pantry. And so I do think, and this is, I mean, it's like both a plug, but also my real feelings on the subject is that like this book, my book, gives you a ton of solutions to use what you already have: flour, olive oil, salt, pepper. Even those like 4 basic ingredients can make you like a lot of delicious food. So ingredient substitutions, I do think, you know, people get nervous to make substitutions, but I also think like, you know, these pancakes are a perfect example. Like, this is pretty low stakes. If this doesn't turn out exactly like the picture or exactly like what you expected, it's still going to be really good. It's fried pasta with cheese, like bound by an egg. A professional chef friend of mine was talking about a recipe he was trying that he's like, yeah, it didn't quite work. Like, I didn't know if it was the pan that he had used or what. But again, he was like, it was still great. So I think I would also like to give people the freedom to kind of like loosen your expectations, especially given some of the challenges we're going to face for the holiday season. Lean into your pantry. I think like now, I mean, we're pretty close to Thanksgiving, but it's never too late. Go ahead and dig into your pantry, see what is there. If you have not used an ingredient in your pantry in the last, let's say like 6 months to a year, you're probably not going to use it in the next 6 months to a year. So go ahead and you know, donate it if it's like a canned good or something, or, you know, dispose of it however you like. I think keeping an eye on what you have and maintaining an awareness of the ingredients in your pantry is going to help all of this. And you're never going to feel like there's no food in the house, or like we need more. I think like we all get sort of like nervous around the holidays generally, but especially this year, knowing that like, oh, what if I can't get X, Y, and Z? I think a lot of us, I think most people who are buying this book will have access to plenty. So try not to panic. Shop, you know, like they say, like shop your closet first, like shop your pantry first. And that'll give you a lot of ideas. So I just want to show you guys what's happening in here. Oh, wait. So I didn't even measure. You know, I've got like a big spoon. So I just did sort of 4 big spoons of the mixture. I'm getting them over medium heat. I'm going to try and not knock this over. And they're starting to get like really beautiful and golden. So I'm just going to flip them over. I'll show you the other side too. How's it going over there, Olga?
Going well. I'm starting to get a little bit of that golden, crispy, scraggly situation. Like that guy over here is doing well.
I see it. That brown.
Oh, it looks really good.
Yeah, it's good.
One
It's
looks
going.
snowy.
Snowy Patty's new puppy.
What's that?
We
New
have
puppy?
we have a new puppy in the house.
Oh
so.
my gosh, so cute.
Soft animal.
Helping?
It's just a soft animal, he says.
Okay, good. Oh, got it.
Soft animal.
I see. I'm
It's
so
just-
glad it's here.
It's a soft animal.
So one thing I want to talk about really quick, and Avi, this is something you can help with, is the dismount. Whether you're frying or even like making pancakes or something, I like to put a wire rack in a rimmed baking sheet. It gives you someplace to land. When you're frying or cooking something that you want to stay crisp or maintain whatever the texture is on the bottom, even like a seared steak, a rack like this will let the air circulate around so it won't sog on the bottom. And then if you're frying in a decent amount of oil, it will let any excess oil drip off. So that is always sort of my landing pad. And that's where I'm gonna put these when I'm done. I will show you, I've got some really nice color on these. And some straggly fusilli, which is gonna be really good.
I like your suggestion about the rack
it smells
over.
it smells really good. Bucky,
Abby says it smells really good. So
Bucky,
That's great feedback.
Bucky,
but I was going. Can you just not like let her the dog.
Whatever.
It's the dog.
Whatever.
I think it's a really good point that you're making about the wire rack over a baking sheet. Versus sometimes people line their baking sheet with a paper towel, and it is not as effective, I think. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it ends up just like you work so hard to get a beautiful crispy exterior. And as soon as you put it down, it starts to steam on the bottom. So anything you want like toasty, crispy, I mean, like it even goes if you're making grilled cheese for a crowd. I mean, I think the parents out there know like we're never actually sitting down together. It's just like grilled cheese 1, grilled cheese 2, grilled cheese 3. But yeah, pancakes. And then with pancakes, you can also put this setup, the rack on the baking sheet in the oven at like 200, 250, and then it'll keep everything warm. So you can sit down together if you are so lucky.
Dawn, just so you know, you're getting a lot of questions, and I'm happy to
Great.
do them. Or if you want, we can finish cooking up a batch and then move to the questions.
Yeah, let's do that. So we have hands free. I'm gonna fry up this. I probably have 3 batches total here. Like I said, I'm in a 10-inch, which is I consider a medium skillet. Large, I would say it's about 12 inches in diameter, which I like. I think probably when my kids are bigger, I'll want to increase. I'll graduate to a 12-inch, but I do most of like my family cooking in this skillet. But yeah, work in batches. I think that's another really important tip whenever you want to get color or crispness. If you overcrowd your pan, things will steam instead of brown. So when in doubt, just like take your time, do another batch. It'll wait for you. The only thing I would say is because of a sort of saucy pasta situation, I just gave everything a toss to kind of reincorporate some of the egg, get the cheese mixed in there, and I'll probably have one more round of pancakes. But this is what's happening now on batch 2.
How is your frying situation going?
It's going quite well. And then I want to talk about, before we take questions, serving these. I mean, I have been known to just like sprinkle these with salt and eat them like this. Look at this very special fried fusilli piece.
I love it.
That is going to be my chef snack. Oh my God. I have my headphones, so you can probably hear that crunch. But another thing that's super fun is even just reheating a little jarred marinara and serving that alongside for dipping. I really like the idea, though I have never executed it in real life, is turning these into like little pizzas. Just maybe like more work than people are interested in doing with their leftover pasta, but like do a dollop of sauce, put on a slice of cheese, throw it under the broiler, and then you have like an incredible snack.
What if you made them in muffin tins?
Yes.
right?
You could also do this. Folks, if you're watching out there, this is how the recipe development process works. It's so much better when you have someone to bounce it off of. I think a lot of us have been cooking in isolation for a long time. And so you may be seeing the same ideas just recycled over and over again. But once you get two cooks in the kitchen, it is often exponentially more delicious. Another thing I like, this is like a little, I'll call it a condiment I made the other night. I had a bunch of parsley that was on its last legs. That's being generous. And I wanted to make like some sort of topper for soup. So the whole middle section of my book is kind of how to build out your homemade pantry. And there's a pesto you can make with herbs or other tender greens you can keep in the freezer. There's a couple of marinara sauces. And there's also like some saucy businesses like this. There's a particular green sauce I call Zing Sauce, which is very much inspired by like chermoula, salsa verdes, zhug, like these spicy, tangy, really bright sauces that are delicious when you serve them with something more rich like this. So this one that I made the other night has kind of the old parsley, some toasted pepitas that I had in the cupboard, a chili, and some lemon juice and olive oil. So I think this is going to be another good serves with for these. But they're really good alone. So if you want to just like eat them off the tray, please feel free.
John, I don't know if I told you, but I think we're going to make these spaghetti pancakes in one of the Hanukkah nights.
Yes.
It's a perfect thing to do. You know, you're supposed to be eating fried foods. And I always look forward to having leftover spaghetti. I love to crisp it up in a pan. And
yes.
I was like, this is so brilliant and it's so simple. And why didn't I think of this? And why haven't I been making these like for years now? So really, really excited about like just the noodles getting nice and crunchy everywhere.
Well, and that's another good point as far as like how to deal with supply chain issues is I hope that these recipes in the book inspires you to really use what's on hand. So like you can get sort of a latke experience with pasta or with like other root vegetables. I know often during the holidays, like, you know, it's hard to deny the family recipes and like, you know, our old favorites, but I think, I don't know, I'm all for giving oneself a break in the kitchen all year round. So the holidays are no exception. So I hope, yeah. So I hope, you know, everyone just sort of like relax, have fun as much as you can in the kitchen, but especially through the holiday. It's been a real roller coaster, folks. And you know, the kitchen shouldn't be a place to get more stressed out. I hope just share in the deliciousness and you know, embrace the mistakes.
The way I think it was Melissa Clark who once said that if you mess up
all the boxes in the back.
she said that if you ever make a mistake on a dish, just change the name of the dish. Like your banana bread, crumble it, make it into a trifle. Like no one has to.
Totally. And that's the second time I've sort of heard a similar anecdote in the last week. This chef, my friend Cal Peternell, he wrote a wonderful book called 12 Recipes and has another book called Burnt Toast. It's out right now. And his big advice is sort of like, you know, a big deal restaurant chef was like, never, I feel I do it too. When you present someone with a meal, we often say like, oh, like it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted. I wish it was a little more like this. And he was like, come to the table with confidence. It's exactly what you meant to do. And like most of the time people are so happy to be cooked for. Like they don't care. They don't care.
Hoping that a noodle might fall out of a pan.
Thank you. Lucky dog.
He is really, really hopeful.
So I'm just about done here. I've got, let's see, I made just about 12. So I did 3 batches, 4 each. We likely won't eat all of these tonight, but even these you can save for a day or two. I would say to reheat in an oven, like, people often ask me, like, how do I reheat stuff? I don't have a super prescriptive answer for you. I would say kind of whatever the oven's on. If it's on, just like throw them on a sheet tray. If you can do the wire rack trick, that's a great way to reheat if you want to go in the oven. If you have a toaster oven, even better. Although I know a lot of folks are really into reheating in the air fryer, which I've been turned on to recently, and that would be a good way to reheat these on like day 2 or 3. But they're good cold too, so you've got options.
I think he's a lot in our house.
Yeah.
Story.
I'll show you my tray.
I feel like it's a cacio e pepe situation happening with my.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, sorry. So here we are. But that's a good point, Olga, is that you can do this with any kind of pasta. I think like we're both in sort of a plain pasta starting point, but the photo in the book was actually made with the winter pasta.
Right.
You know, a few pages before that, which has like onions and garlic and olives. So this works even with like a saucy pasta if you had, you know, marinara on something or something with more vegetables in it. So don't feel like, oh, I got to cook up a bunch of plain pasta, like just to make these things. This works with whatever you've got, whatever you have left over.
Yeah.
Now, I recently was shooting a video and set off the smoke alarm. So I'm just going to cover the pan of oil so it doesn't do that right now.
Are you done?
And then I'm done.
Oh, I'm behind. I think it's because I didn't go with the cast iron. This is why people go with the cast iron. This is why cast iron is secure.
But no rush. Can you check on any of the questions?
Yes, I can check on the questions. Wow. Okay, I'll go in order that I'm seeing them come in. What is the biggest mistake people make with their pantries in your experience?
I would say the biggest mistake that people make with their pantries is holding on to stuff they don't like. Even more so than like holding on to the spices that have been there for years and years. And I'm guilty of this too. I will either get excited and buy something, or be gifted something, or bring something back from my travels or whatever, or my, previous travels. And I just don't love it. But because I hate to waste food, and I'm really particular about how I dispose of stuff, I will hold on to things for years and years and years when I'm not using them. I mean, I tell the story in the book actually that I once had a box of dry milk powder that I moved from 2 apartments. So like it had been, I had a chance to evaluate the space and I had to hold on to it. But I wasn't going to make white bread again anytime soon. So I would say just try and be honest with yourself about what you like to eat. And it's the kind of thing where you think it's like, I don't have stuff in there that I don't like. I bet there's a couple of things that you have in there that you don't love or you think you're going to get around to. It really is very much like your closet. Like if you haven't worn that in the last 6 months, you're probably not going to wear it. You're probably not going to use it in the next 6 months. And it's okay. It's okay to move on. Also, like our pantries will evolve over time. So what you may, look at in your pantry and say like, well, I used to eat it all the time. You may have just, lost your taste for it. You're not into it right now. But I think like that 6-month rule is a good way to evaluate, like, am I actually going to use this or not?
Yeah. So the next is, what kind of spatula are you both using?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I'm so glad we're both using it. So this is called a fish spatula. It has a really thin blade and it's flexible. Can you see this? So it's great for getting into more, it's great for getting under more delicate items, be they like skin on fish fillets, a fried egg where you don't want to break the yolk. They are great for frying this type of thing because any excess oil will drip back into your pan. But because the blade is so thin, it's great for cookies too. So this is my sort of first choice turner, whether I'm doing pancakes, frying this kind of thing. I'd say anything flat or like thin-ish. Otherwise, I would say tongs. Tongs are my choice for like, chicken breasts, bigger, heavier pieces of meat where like you kind of need more muscle behind it. But if you like Google fish spatula, you'll see, you have a lot of options. I've had this since culinary school. Can you believe that?
Where did you go to culinary school?
I went to culinary school in San Francisco in 2003. So I've had this thing for 18 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Chef Cutlery is the brand.
I have a question about the fish spatula, and this might be useful to the folks.
Yeah.
Do you use your fish spatula on your nonstick pan?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Right?
Say again, Olga?
But carefully, right?
Very carefully. But I would say one of the benefits of, excuse me, the nonstick pan is that like stuff doesn't stick that much. So it's really just sort of like, it's just there to assist. I think if you're like really scraping, there's something else afoot. If you really have to go after something in a nonstick pan, I would say, back off, use a wooden spoon or a rubber spatula to kind of get things going rather than, mar up your pan.
Yep. All right, let's go down the question list. Next, I love this cookbook because it makes really simple pantry ingredients feel innovative. Find what are your can't live without pantry ingredients?
I get this question a lot, and I feel like my answer is not very exciting, but like olive oil and salt are really, you're like halfway there. If you have those two things around, and then like pepper is also great. But I feel like if you find an olive oil that you like, amazing. That's my go-to fat of choice. We go through a lot of butter in this house. We eat a lot of toast. But yeah, olive oil and salt are sort of my like, if I was like showing up to your house with nothing but my knife, it would also be like with a bottle of olive oil and a box of salt. One thing I can say about salt is, let me see if I have a box, but my preferred brand, here it is. And my, and I can tell you most like recipe writers use this Diamond kosher salt. It's the least salty of the kosher salts. I would say over seasoning is not really a problem for most home cooks, but if you're nervous about that and starting to learn to season with your fingers, which is something that we all encourage home cooks to do and get comfortable doing, this brand, again, Diamond Crystal, it's in a red and white box. this is the best choice. Though I think, if the other kosher salts are fine. What I like about it is the crystals are even, so you can get some even seasoning throughout. I bake with it also. I know some bakers and pastry people like a finer salt. I don't find that the kosher salt really makes a difference in my baking, which is not like super precise. So those are my two. Olga, what are your can't live withouts?
Oh gosh. My can't live without also olive oil and salt, but I don't know if I can keep the list that short. I think lemons is a big one. And limes, like the acid component.
Citrus, yeah.
Anchovies. Chili flakes. I'm like a broken record. I don't know, just like little things that give like bursts of brightness or briny, or that make pop, like texture. Like I know in your book you talk about things that you can like put crunchy things and like really zhuzh up your meal. And I think that's what takes your very ho-hum meal, right? From like, this is fine to I can't stop eating it. So I think there's like putting just maybe like a little bit of time into that. Hey, sweetie. Thank you.
He's doing great.
It's like a test kitchen here.
Yeah.
Things are happening. I think just taking those little building blocks is what really takes your meal to that next level.
Yes.
But those, salt, pepper, and I'm also a diamond crystal fan, like forever and for always. So yes. I find it feels so nice between your fingers. Like it's just that I know exactly how much I need to season with it when I need to. Yeah, it just feels really good. I don't know what it is.
It feels really good. And I will say, while we're talking about salt, if in a recipe it doesn't give a precise measurement, I do a 4-finger pinch, if I'm being honest. So it's probably like a quarter to a half teaspoon. Like if we were to get like really nerdy, it's probably like a third of a teaspoon, which is not a spoon size that they make, but that's a big difference. As you're learning to season with confidence.
Yes. And I think the one thing I would say also, and tell me how you feel, I'd rather people under season at first and then add a little more than just like gusto, and then because you can't take it once you add too much salt, that's all you taste, right?
Yes, it's true. You can always add a little more. I think it's so rare for home cooks. Though my sister did just text me. She was like, I ruined the quiches. She was making, my mom had some minor surgery and she was making some meals for her. And I was like, well, what did it call for? And she was like, well, it said season to taste. But I guess like the top of the box like came off. And so there was quite a bit in there. So I feel like in most cases, it's hard to over season, but go light. You can always add a little more.
1 second.
Yes. And here I'll try and check the Q&A.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're so good. Go ahead. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, this is it.
Doing it. It's fine. I'm back. Have you ever made anything you've loved out of restaurant leftovers? And or what's your favorite transformation of leftovers? I'm getting into pickling these days.
Pickling is such a great way to lengthen the life of ingredients, whether they are things like, I think a lot of cooks and a lot of people who love to cook, once you get hooked on the farmer's market, it's almost guaranteed that you will come home with more than you had planned and more than you can get through in a week. So I oftentimes will end up pickling, the fennel I bought 2 weeks ago that is like getting a little wiggly, maybe like a little less crunchy than I had hoped. So pickling is such a good way to stretch the life of a thing. And I have a simple recipe for a pickle brine in my book that you can use on onions, on radishes, on cucumbers, of course. Pickling is so great. And even having those things around can really, like Olga said, like brighten up your most ho-hum dishes. Other things I like to do with restaurant leftovers, I'll fry stuff. It's kind of a sure thing. So oftentimes I feel like if I have a little piece of leftover fish or something, I will break it up, mix it up with a little egg, a little flour, to help bind it and make little fritters or patties. One thing that I'm into right now with leftover soup, which I often have because when I make soup, I make a big batch of it because it's so easy and it goes so far. And then I freeze some. But inevitably, it like gets tucked behind the big yogurt and I forgot it was there. I'm like, oh my God, I have to eat this right away. Is to sort of treat it like a shakshuka base, which, is often like, a super savory, like tomatoes or peppers. You'll see many, many different versions with eggs sort of poached inside. So I'll either, if I have a lot of soup to get through, I'll put that in like a shallower dish, like the cast iron, bring it up to a simmer and then just crack eggs in there.
Right.
And then like spoon that over toast or something. So that's a great way to use, whether it's store-bought soup, homemade soup. That's my current favorite way to stretch it.
In a minute, sweetie, I can. Yes, I need to read a question. Can I read a question first? Any ways you're practicing sustainability in your kitchen, both in ingredient choice and storage appliance use?
Storage appliance use. I'm not totally clear on what that means, but yes, I would say I try to shop locally as much as possible. We have a wonderful local farm, like just around the corner, that has a small market every Saturday, and then a great farmers market just on the way. Like I'm in California, I'm in Southern California. We have so much amazing produce year round, and like citrus that grows right here. Like you can get citrus at the farmers market, which is so amazing. So shopping locally, shopping from farmers directly is my first choice. But I also, like, as I have gotten older, as I, had a second kid, as I moved cross country, like you do have to lean on the conveniences that feel right to you. So you have to kind of pick and choose what you're comfortable with. So that's sort of my first choice. I did an AmeriCorps program when I was just out of college, and we did environmental-based education for middle school kids. So we were planning community gardens and doing other sustainability projects. And I think doing that work really inspired me to kind of like really take stock of my consumption, whether it was like actual food based or just, the number of things that I brought into my house. I would say it's shocking when you start to take a look. If you go into major supermarkets, almost everything is now coming in a plastic bag. So if you can bring your own sort of like reusable bag, or don't use a bag, if you're like buying a bunch of lemons, just tuck them in the cart. Like they're not going to fall through. The people at the checkout, they know how to deal with that. So I would say also to just be mindful of packaging is something that I think about a lot. If you can't avoid it, look for something recyclable and do recycle. I know, it's not a perfect solution, but but I think it's still worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also composting, I think, is another good one, right?
Yes. If you have it
available area.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where people aren't necessarily aware of their resources. And it just takes like a quick Google. There are a lot of schools around that do have composting programs. Farmers markets often have like central locations where you can bring your compost. You might be thinking like, it's gross, it's going to smell. Stick it in the freezer. Keep one bag. That's your compost bag. You can put all your trimmings, your eggshells, whatever you want to take, just stick it in the freezer. And the next time you're ready to go to your drop-off location, grab it, dump it, take the bag back, put it back in the freezer, and it won't stink.
Yep. All right, let's do, I want to be mindful of time and the questions. What are your other favorite recipes from the cookbook? That's like choosing a favorite child, Dawn.
I know. And I don't have one.
No,
I will say though, this middle section of the book, the Pantry Plus ingredients, those are for real. Like I for real have those things around. So I almost always have pickled red onions. Sometimes I make it with the brine from the book. Sometimes I just put them in a jar, cover it halfway with vinegar, a big pinch of salt, top it off with water, and stick it in the fridge. So like you can dial it back that much and it will still serve you quite well. The tahini sauce, we almost always have. And then if you get into the mains, the lemon lime cabbage.
Ooh, that looks good.
I make every week. It's one thing I love about cabbage. I talk about this in the book. It's just like, it is so low maintenance. I mean, the number of cabbages that I've forgotten about in various refrigerators over the course of my life are too many to count. And you just like shave off whatever's exposed and it's good as new. But this way, and you make it. It's so inexpensive. It lasts forever. But this recipe, it's really just like you toss shaved cabbage. It can be green or red with lemon or lime juice, pinch of salt, pinch of sugar, little chili flake if you're into that. And like it'll last for 5 days. And that's another amazing thing. It's like sort of like a quick pickle that you can like put on rice bowls, put on tacos, eat as like a salad, mix with other plain greens, and they become instantly dressed. And then I'll say one more. The pizza broccoli.
Oh, we made that. Abby, what do you think about pizza broccoli?
Yum. That's a great review. And what I love about it is you can make it with broccoli, but you can also make it with cauliflower. You can make it with winter squash, like anything sturdy that will sort of take a sear will also take tomatoes and cheese. So it's a really good way to kind of present vegetables to those who are maybe less excited about eating vegetables.
No, he loves vegetables. In fact,
amazing.
Red cabbage recipe. What did we pick up at the store yesterday? A head of red cabbage.
All right.
So Abby said, I'd like to pick 3 things, and one of them was cabbage, and one of them was kombucha. And what was the third one?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But
great choices, though.
Yeah,
I'll try to remember.
Yeah, he's been. By the way, he can't stop eating the pancakes. And this is after he had.
Great.
So
perfect.
Right, this is a win for anybody thinking about feeding a kid. Another. You have a question for Dawn? Okay, can you wait your turn, because there are people who are waiting too. What's your go-to order takeout when you don't feel like cooking?
Pizza. Which is sort of predictable, but like everybody loves it. And it's good leftover, so there's no stress of like, what do we do if we don't even get through the whole pie? One thing I really like to do, I mean, leftover pizza is delicious, but I also like to heat up a cast iron pan I'll either cut up the pizza into like cubes or just put the whole thing in there and you can cut it after, and you make little like pizza croutons. So then you can like toss that with a salad or something and feel sort of like, more virtuous in your choices, but like you still get to have pizza.
I like that idea. Avi, what do you think about the croutons next time we get pizza. Yes, you're for it. What sauce do we use for spaghetti pancakes?
I missed the second word.
Oh, I'm sorry. What sauce should we use for spaghetti?
You've got options. I'm going to turn on the light in here because it's getting a little bit dark. So I happen to have some jarred marinara around. If you have homemade, that's great. I really like Rayo's. It's so delicious. It's like on the pricier side of the jarred sauces, but it is so good. So I would just like microwave a little of this and you can dip. Any of the sauces, if you have the book, the Zing sauce would be great. The tahini sauce would be great. Any sort of like bright herby thing would be delicious. If you have a pesto, that would be good. You could even make like a little garlicky mayonnaise, which would probably be good if you're like a French fry with mayonnaise person. So those are some ideas for dips.
I'm too full.
You're too full now. Okay.
Happens.
I might have a third one like.
Okay. Oh, all right, that's fair. You have a question for Dawn? Okay. All right. Why don't you go ahead, Abby? Why don't you go ahead and ask Dawn a question right now?
What time is it in California?
It is just about 5.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? They're 3 hours behind us.
You mean in front of us?
No, behind us, because we're almost at 8, right? So we have to subtract 3 hours.
So I don't get
it. I know some adults who still don't get it.
My husband gets very confused about the time changes, so he always asks me to double check that, like when he's talking to someone in Europe, whether or not he did the math right. Plus,
right,
time right, which doesn't help the situation.
Right.
So, so let's
explain. He is a bottle of olive oil, right?
He's a bottle of olive oil?
I don't know if Ramona does this, but there's a lot of nonsense jokes in our house.
Yeah.
Olive oil.
Can I ask a question? Or do you want to read a question? Would you like to read this question? This makes me want to cook with someone over Zoom. Have you been doing a lot of Zoom kitchen collaborations during COVID?
Yes. Lots of kitchen collaborations, lots of classes. I'm happy to talk to anybody out there who's interested in privates or setting up classes for a group. One of the benefits of all of this, not the benefits, but like a positive, is that we can be so many places and share with so many people. So if anyone out there wants to do classes, wants to cook along again, please reach out. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm at Dawn K. Perry on Instagram. I do check the DM. So I think it's super fun. And it's a wonderful way to, like, whether you're with family or friends, you can cook with people overseas. It really is an opportunity to do more together.
We have one more question, and I just want to make sure we get that one in before the end. What beverage would you pair with these?
Oh, cold beer. I think like cold beer or like a crisp glass of white wine is always a good idea with fried stuff. So that sounds very delicious to me right now.
Amen.
Amen. That is all sounding delicious to me as well. And folks, the pizza broccoli recipe is on page 206 and 207. I had to look that up. It looks delicious. Our sincere thanks to Dawn Perry, Olga Masov, and Terrell Danley, and the Washington Literary Center for partnering with us, and our audience out there for these amazing questions. Your patronage and dedication enable us to bring you these delicious events. So get ready, get set, and click the link over in the chat to grab a copy of Dawn Perry's Ready, Set, Cook, or you can visit us online at politics-pros.com. While you're there, make sure you check out our calendar of upcoming events for the rest of the year. It'll be exciting. And from our shelves and pantries to yours, we hope everyone out there is staying safe, staying strong, staying well-read, and well-fed. And we'll see you next time. And a special shout out to Avi too. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Avi.
Yeah, thank you, Terrell, Dawn, everyone. Thank you. Have a